All right, Shalom, giving all praises, honor, and glory to our power, Yahweh. Shalom, Yahweh Shah, Bahasham Rachak, Wadash, double honors to the apostles, the bishops, and the elders of Great Millstone. Peace and blessings to the hopeful elect of the tabernacles of David, scattered throughout the four corners of the earth, and wherever you may be, wherever you may be, to I say Shalom, Nasharah, Shalom. All right, I got a couple of things I want to get into. There's another video I want to play, but I may, Lord willing, do that tomorrow, because I want to watch all of it, and it's about 16, 17 minutes long, which I was watching some of it just a couple minutes ago. But as far as this goes, I want to play this and also get something else. So we'll start with this here. It says Amazon's plans can collapse the job market. All right, so we're gonna play this video here.
This morning, concerns that Amazon, the second largest private employer in the country, is planning one of the biggest workplace transformations in modern history.
One of the things that we've been proud of over our 10-year history is the ability to develop robots that work well alongside people.
It comes amid growing fears of technology replacing human workers. The so-called godfather of artificial intelligence has been sounding the alarm.
If I worked in a call center, I'd be terrified. If I was someone like a legal assistant, a paralegal, they're not going to be needed for very long. For mundane intellectual labor, AI is just going to replace everybody.
You heard me say AI is just going to replace everybody. And this is what basically this particular video is about here. Okay, so let's keep listening. Which I mean, it's not like it's a brand new talk. Okay, they're making AI to take jobs, but I thought it was a very interesting video here.
Well, artificial intelligence absolutely has already been a disrupting force in the job market, and it's expected to get a lot worse, especially with some of the announcements that have been made by Amazon. Now, Amazon's U.S. workforce has more than tripled since 2018 to almost 1.2 million people, and they are expecting to essentially shed more than 500,000 jobs. So let me tell you how. Amazon's automation team expects the company can avoid hiring more than 160,000 people in the United States. It would otherwise need by 2027. That would save about 30 cents on each item that Amazon picks, packs, and delivers to customers. The question is, will they have customers when people are unable to make an income due to artificial intelligence? I don't know. Let's tell you more. Now, executives told Amazon's board last year that they hoped robotic automation would allow the company to continue to avoid adding to its U.S. workforce in the coming years, even though they expect to sell twice as many products by 2033. So again, that would translate to more than 600,000 people who Amazon doesn't hire because they don't need to. They've been replaced by artificial intelligence, but they do plan to hire 250,000 people for the upcoming holiday season. It's unclear how many of those roles would be permanent. I would venture to say not many of them. What do you think, Cenk?
Yeah, just the holiday season, they always hire temporary help. That doesn't mean anything. That's very normal. That's just them trying to cover their ass. I think super interesting fact coming out of the story is apparently your job is worth about 30 cents per item. Okay, so now we know that interesting fact if you're a blue collar worker working for Amazon or one of these other companies. So by the way, I would rather have everyone in America have a job and pay 30 cents more per item. And you're not going to be able to afford that item at 30 cents or otherwise if you don't have a job. So, okay, now the most devastating.
See, what's happening is these big companies, they're ready for a whole digital shift. And the less people, the less, human resources, less people you have working, the more money you save, all right? Because the robots don't need to be, fed, all right? They're not going to get pregnant. They're not going to need time off. They're not going to need a vacation. If anything, they'll break down, but then there'll be another robot to replace it. And then that robot will go until some other robot breaks down, and then another one come from the back. So it's going to be constant robotic work. Whereas, people have problems, infirmities, emergencies. Okay, and to top it all off, you have to pay them. All right. So the less you're paying the people, the more goes back into what? The pocket of the company, which also that means there's more money to be made from the people that profit off of the company. Okay.
Parts. This AI Nakba is coming, and people are not prepared for it. None of the politicians are. They haven't made any preparations at all, and it is going to be far more devastating than anyone realizes. So that every once in a while, people will give warnings, like the creator of AI in the first place, me, whoever else, right? And those warnings are completely ignored. Why am I positive that this is going to be a collapse in terms of the job market, which then is going to lead to obviously a catastrophic economic collapse, is because this is inevitable. I know business, I know math, and so when you tell a giant corporation that is publicly traded on the stock market, you can make more money by doing X, unless X is illegal, and sometimes even if it is illegal, they will do X, period. End of question. In fact, if they don't do X, they will be fired. They have a fiduciary responsibility to maximize profit. And if the first guy doesn't do it, you remove that CEO and you bring in the next CEO. So is Amazon going to be cutting their jobs drastically over these next set of years because they can? Yes, obviously. Sometimes I read these articles and they make it seem like it's like, oh, they might or they might not. And then Amazon puts out a statement, oh, don't worry, we're hiring seasonal help, right? Guys, absolutely inevitable. There is no publicly traded company that can cut costs and doesn't do it. So they're going to take it.
And if we look around, how many stores been closing and shutting down, businesses altogether, people file for bankruptcy, okay, and that's leaving people with what? No jobs. All right, you got a so-called homelessness crisis. You got people complaining about money, jobs. I got people complaining about food benefits and stuff like that. All right. So what's happening? These people are being driven, towards the way that Esau wants. All right, because these big companies ain't going to just lose out. All right, they're going, transition. All right, so they can, stay afloat and continue, doing business. All right, the way that Esau wants them to do it. Because if not, I mean, they'll be shut down. All right, but and see, when you think about it, when you got all these people in need, which is something we're going to talk about, after we get through this video, because it was something that came up that actually sparked my attention. Many ways, because we talked about the universal basic income. Okay, so when it comes to a point where people are in need, they're hungry, they can't do this, can't do that, can't pay this, can't do that, okay, and they're offered the CHIP or something like the UBI or whatever, which because I earlier today I asked a whole series of questions to the AI thing. Okay, a whole bunch of questions. I probably should have kept all those things, because I like using AI mode because everything you research stays on one screen versus well, actually everything stays on that screen, but AI, it kind of gets straight direct to it. Where sometimes, like when you use the other like chat things, they'll kind of dance around a particular topic. But yeah, anyways, the UBI, and I was asking it one question of, could I can't remember exactly. Like I said, I should have kept all those list of things that I researched. But anyways, speaking about the SNAP benefit thing, which WIC is also one of those things being affected. So people won't receive SNAP or WIC. So I was asking us, I can't remember the exact words, but a similar question to like if the system was like to reset itself or however, could it possibly like come back online like digitally? And then it gave me, a series of things there. And I was like, okay, so could this new system, could it merge with the UBI? Okay, and so it gave me a bunch of interesting things there, that would have been good topics, but like I said, I should have kept it. But yeah, the point I'm trying to get to is, Esau is trying to drive all the people to a point where they want him and make them feel like they need him. All right, like I always mentioned the Green Goblin. Okay, first we attack the heart, but what is your heart? Your heart is your mind. So they play on the people's emotions. All right, and that's how they end up getting the people. They're gonna play on people's emotions. And as of right now, you see people's emotions being played upon by what? By the No Snap November talk, which a lot of people are talking about SNAP, but Not too many people are talking about WIC, but WIC is also going to be affected. Okay, but let's keep going because we'll get
Got
to
a
some of those things in a second.
huge chunk of their workers, but of course, this isn't just about Amazon. Amazon's just symbolic. That's going to be a wave that hits that industry.
And I'm glad he said that because I was trying to mention, I think with scripture, how it's worded, but the scriptures speak about would there be no work for Egypt, that the head or the tail brush, or I can't remember exactly how it was worded. All right, shall do. But that's what's happening right now in Babylon. All right, this slow demolition of the current society, because Esau is almost ready to spring forward with his digital society. But we got to see exactly how the Lord is going to play things out. Okay, but we see the sea hippies, is at the door. We see the whole civil unrest is at the door. Jacob's trouble is pretty much already through the door, but it hasn't, fully bloomed yet until, all out trouble. But we see it, it's here. All right.
Guaranteed that is a very AI prone industry. So UPS, Walmart, many others that are affected by that. And then, of course, almost all other
And we're going to mention something about Walmart in a second here.
Industries. You saw there, again, the original founder talking about how the white collar jobs are in a lot of trouble, like paralegals and others. Middle management is in huge trouble. So we're going to lose an unbelievable percentage of the jobs in this country. And then people think, oh, no, the stock market, it's AI, and we're going to have a new, beautiful future. Yeah, but the guys that lost their jobs are not going to be part of that future. They're like, oh, we're creating jobs, 8 jobs for people that are great at nanotech or something. How is the Amazon driver or factory worker going to learn nanotech technology overnight? No, there's going to be decimation in this country soon and throughout the world.
Were you exposed to Roundup at home or on the job and later diagnosed with cancer?
In this
You may
country
have
soon,
legal
pretty much,
options. If you've been
already
using
here,
Roundup,
it's about to get worse, man. With the no snap, because there's a ton of places that are just not receiving. Because the initial question I asked the courts, which I already knew the answer, about the effect of no snap November, and it said all 50 states, but I just wanted to give me an answer, and that's when I started to go through certain questions. And the second one, I think it was the second one that I asked, that I thought stood out the most, which I have that on my other screen, okay? And I'm gonna transition to that as we get through this.
Oh, there's going to be decimation in this country soon and throughout the world.
Yeah, I think you're right. And it doesn't really look like our government cares about it at all. I mean, in fact, they tried to slip through a provision that would prevent the regulation of artificial intelligence, just to make sure that there's absolutely no brakes on this car. And the ultimate goal, according to Amazon, is to essentially automate 75% of their operations. But by the way, they don't want people to think that's bad, to your point. And so they're using all sorts of hilarious euphemisms as if we're all stupid and we can't figure out what's going on here. The documents contemplate avoiding using terms like automation and AI when discussing robotics, and instead use terms like advanced technology, or replace the word robot with cobot, because that makes it better, which implies collaboration with humans. Oh my God, these like corporate brained idiots. Like, I love it so much. They're destroying everything, but.
And really, they're not idiots, all right? They know exactly what they're doing, all right? It's called them cobots because in a second, they're trying to make 75% of the workers are robots. And so they're going to be, the majority numbers of the so-called workers, and the minimal amount needed of human workers. So they are going to be your cobots, all right?
They're idiots.
Yeah, no, Anna, they're dobots, dork robots.
They totally are. Yeah.
So if you rename it, it's okay, because before it was torture and that was terrible and disgusting and illegal, but now it's enhanced interrogation, so it's totally okay. And so same thing here. Before it was AI that's definitely going to take your job. No, it's now advanced technology that's definitely going to take your job. Guys, did you hear what she said? 75%. They're going to fire eventually 3/4 of their workers. and so is the next company and the next company.
Yeah, and Amazon's a big company, and like you said, the next company, because it's a chain reaction thing. Because these big name companies, right, which probably got some kind of links anyways to, to some extent, some level. But anyways, these big companies ain't just gonna, dissipate and disappear. Okay, they're gonna transition right to the whole digital age. Okay, and the digital age is less people workers, right? Which means more money to the company, which means more money to their pockets. It's all about money, and then money, Revelation 13, money's going digital. All right, so
And Nakba is a catastrophe. Okay, an AI Nakba is coming straight in our direction, and the politicians are so short term. They're like, okay, yeah, which donor gave me money? Which donor? This one. Which one am I serving? Right? No, brother, look up, look up, look up. There's an AI iceberg right there. He's like, yeah, that's for average American. And in the stock market, they think like, what do you mean? The AI companies are all going through the roof. The social media companies are doing great. Yes, but what happens when no one has a job and no one can buy anything? You didn't think of that? So, and then that affects all of our 401ks and our retirement plans when the market crashes. So, I don't want to scare you too much, but yeah, it's gonna it would be very surprising if this economic catastrophe didn't happen.
And that's what a lot of Americans ain't kind of woke up to yet, right? That it's gonna happen. All right, there's a crash that's gonna happen, but the key thing is not the actual crash; is what's afterward. All right, when things are set back up and brought back online, everything's gonna be through the digital way. Okay, now I wanna transition somewhere because there's two things. One not too long ago, because I was just listening to the Apostle Tahar's live stream, and he actually played a portion of a video from Dabu 7, who actually in that video he was talking about the same thing that I researched earlier today. Okay, now this morning, I believe it was this morning, I watched one video from Apostle Ramlab and the other elder brother, and which I can't verify myself, so I'm just making a point here, but where there's talk about Walmart, supposed to be like shutting down the way they're gonna do things or something like that. Basically the reason why I want to talk about that is because having experience in that sort of department there. So should Walmart, which is real crazy, but should Walmart shut things down and have everybody order online? There's only two avenues that people are going to be able to take. All right, they're going to go online, have to pay the online, and then get it delivered to their house. And that's where people like myself come into play. Okay, which I'll speak about that again in a second. Okay, where they'll order the groceries online, get them delivered to their house. Only biggest problem with that, at least on their end, sometimes the item that they're looking for is not there. Okay, whoopie-doo. Now, the other end of that is, which is the craziest part. So if everybody has to come to the store and pick it up, there's only so many designated parking spaces for at store pickup, right? And I'm speaking from experience. So what happens is if everybody has to come to the store and pick it up, okay, you're gonna have a parking lot of cars, right? Where it's not gonna matter where they're parking because they can only park in the designated. So think about a full, grocery store. When you just any random day you go to a Walmart or something like that. Parking lot's full, right? You got customers in the store. You got customers leaving the store. You got customers coming to the store to go in the store. It's a constant motion of people in and out, in and out, in and out. And those are already there, right? And the parking lot is full. Well, if people come to pick up their groceries, they have to come to pick up their groceries. There's only a certain amount of parking spaces designated for pickup. They can't just park anywhere they want because when you pull up, you have to check in. And when you check in by the numbered parking spot that you park in. So if you parked at number 13, all right, number 13, that's where your car is. They're going to know this is 13. This is 13's order. I can bring it to 13's car. Okay. So if you have a ton of people that have to pick up their food all at one time, do you know how hectic that's gonna be? And I guarantee you, like I said, I know from experience, every Walmart you go to, all right, the majority of those workers that do those, in-store pickup deliveries, the workers, they're always angry. Okay, they don't want to work, they don't want to do the job, so they're gonna be overworked. They're gonna be stressed out. All right, and then you're gonna have a line of people, which some people are just not gonna get their food. All right, because at some point, I mean, the stores got to close because I don't think Walmart's open 24 hours anymore. I think they stopped it a long time ago because a lot of people used to come from the club and just go in there and just make Walmart is a second club. After the club, they just go to Walmart for whatever reason. I think they stopped it a long time ago. But so you're gonna have a line of people waiting, all right, to a certain, I don't know, maybe it's 20. We'll just throw around another 30 parking spaces. Okay, but you got hundreds of people who have to come to the store to pick up their groceries. And so there's going to be a long, and as a matter of fact, back to what I said earlier, with, people like myself come in will deliver. Well, a person that delivers to someone's house is going to have to wait in that line. And one of the busiest days or not days, but seasons out of the year is their so-called Christmas time. All right. I've sat in a parking lot before where, picking up a customer's order and you can be there for an hour. All right. Because there's so much confusion. Sometimes orders are wrong. Sometimes they don't find the right car, or sometimes they forget you. And like the so-called Christmas season is the most hectic season where people do the most buying. Okay. Um, and so, not saying that that's this season, but I'm just making a point, all right, of how hectic it can get if that was to happen. Okay. And then you talking about people that oh, we don't get our SNAP, we're gonna rob, and so there's a lot of little small elements, that are taking place right now. And we just have to, wait and see what the Lord's gonna do, how things roll out. But I just want to mention that, because I do understand how those things work, So if Walmart was to do that, man, you talking about crazy. Let me pull this up here. We're done with this guy. Yeah, here we go. So I didn't keep the first one I had, but this is the second thing that I had researched earlier today, which is what I just mentioned. What Apostle Tahar had played from that Dabu 7 video. He actually mentioned the same thing I researched earlier, so that made me think about this. So it says, due to the ongoing federal government shutdown, no states are currently expected to fund November 2025 SNAP benefits on their normal schedule, as the USDA has directed states to pause payments. Some states are exploring options for temporary support, but federal reimbursement is not assured. Right? So federal level directives, USDA pause. The U.S. Department of Agriculture, the USDA, confirmed on October 27, 2025, that no SNAP benefit will be issued for November, with a notice on its website stating the well has run dry. All right, the well has, and that wasn't up there earlier. Okay, the well has run dry. Okay, I actually might use that as part of the title. The well has run dry. Contingency funds available. The USDA is not using an available contingency fund, asserting it is legally unable to cover regular benefits during the shutdown. The position is disputed by some policy analysts. Then it says no state reimbursement. The USDA has also stated it will not reimburse any state that use their own funds to cover the cost of November SNAP benefits. Now, what's interesting is the states below, somewhere down here. So it says state level responses and options. Despite the federal directive, some states are actively looking for ways to assist residents, although with significant limitations. States using or exploring state funds. Connecticut Governor Ned Lamont announced $3 million in emergency state funding for the nonprofit Connecticut Food Share to help residents affected by the pause. Louisiana lawmakers are drafting legislation to temporarily use funds from the Louisiana Department of Health to cover November SNAP benefits with the hope of federal reimbursement later. VA, this state, has also announced plans to use its own funds to cover the shortfall, at least temporarily. Now, as always, these things change. I wish I had as it was earlier, because it gave me a little bit more information about, what states were doing it, how much they were offering up, and then what states were not. But anyway, states confirming delays or pauses. North Carolina officials have announced that November benefits for 1.4 million residents will be delayed due to lack of federal funding. California benefits will be delayed for recipients in November, even with the state moving $80 million to support food banks, because California was one of these that were listed up above here that was actually going to use their own funds, and they were the biggest, right? Moving $80 million to support food banks, okay? But I guess it's only going to last for so long. Arizona, these are among at least 25 states that have either announced, and what is this? 25. Okay, anyways, these are among at least 25 states that have either announced or confirmed that they will halt or delay payments starting November the 1st. Warnings in other states. A wider list of 36 states, including Texas, Florida, and New York, had previously warned that SNAP benefits were at risk if the shutdown continued. With USDA now confirming the pause, these warnings have become a reality. See, with the USDA now confirming the pause, meaning that nobody's getting it, the warnings have become a reality. What does it say up above here? The well has run dry. It's up there somewhere. Okay. Next steps for recipients. Recipients should use any remaining benefits from previous months as existing funds on EBT cards remain available. Food banks and other local food assistance programs. Oh, and it's beautiful because I just mentioned this. I can't remember, it was sometime over the last week, but I mentioned how you know like churches that give out food, those pastors don't buy that food or stuff like that with their own money or the church money or nothing like that. They get these food from actual stores like Food Line and stuff like that. That's where this food comes from. Okay, to give out to the people that want it for free. But that's gonna run dry. Okay, it's gonna slow down. Then you have things like not bread house. Bread house. I have a bread house was a store. Growing up when I was younger, we actually buy bread fresh but cheaper than regular stores. Doggone that bread house. Shoot, what the heck is it called? Soup kitchen. So there you go, soup kitchen. Right, soup kitchens. All right. So things like soup kitchens. All right, soup kitchens give people 2 meals a day. All right. As far as I know, for free. I'm not sure. I've never been to the soup kitchen. But they do give out 2 meals a day. Eventually, stuff like that is gonna run dry. All right. Food banks, stuff like that is gonna run dry, man, because as they already said, there's gonna be no SNAP. Oh, I mentioned WIC. I'm not sure if that's gonna be here. Maybe we'll look that up too. But what was I about to say? Man, it slipped my mind thinking about the other thing. But anyways, the food banks and stuff like that. All right. Oh yeah, because I was about to say because they said that no fundings are going to go out. There's certain states that will be drawing from wherever they're drawing from. All right, to help those that won't be receiving the SNAP benefits. But like I said, that's only going to last for so long. Okay. Food banks and other local food assistance programs are expected to face a massive increase in demand. Recipients are being directed toward these resources for alternative support. Any missed November deposits are expected to be reimbursed once the government reopens and federal funding becomes available. And bear with me, I'm gonna get me a water real quick. Oh, hold on, almost missed the play button. I was about to speak. And that was the end of that right there. And I like going to these little extra things down here. This is how I actually pull up some more other topics, about certain information. That might be a good one there. Which states are most affected by the SNAP benefit disruption? Maybe it'll give us a better list. Oh, here we go. Yep. States most affected by high enrollment. Let's make sure we're checking. Double check. No, it does sometimes affected by high enrollment numbers. States with high populations will have the most people impacted by the disruption. According to the data from 2025, these include California, over 5.4 million recipients, Texas, 3.5 million, Florida, 3 million, New York, 3 million. States most affected by high population reliance. New Mexico, 21.2% of the population receives SNAP. Louisiana, 18.6% of the population receives SNAP. Oregon, 17.7% of the population receives SNAP. Oklahoma, 16.7%. Nevada, 15.7%. All right, rural communities are also disproportionately affected. States with more households relying on SNAP that include children, the elderly, or people with disabilities may face more urgent crisis. State funding. States that have the financial means and willingness to provide temporary stopgap funding for food banks and other emergency assistance can help mitigate the immediate impact. Vulnerable demographics. The disruption will be especially severe in areas with a higher concentration of individuals living significantly below the poverty line. So the bigger the city, all right, that's basically what it's saying there. Surprised there's not more. Let's go over here and do this. Like I said, things like this keep popping up, and that's why I got used to, using AI mode. Is really it's actually better than the actual chat things. All right, in its ways, in its different ways. Okay, they both help. But this is not often talked about. Let's punch in how will WIC be affected? Because I read something about WIC earlier, but it didn't pop up and all this stuff here. By the I don't know, SNAP. I don't know, November. I don't know how they usually word it. SNAP fund stop. I don't know. We'll get something out of it, right? Okay, so I'm just trying to get a question so we can pull something up. Although separate from the SNAP program, the special supplemental nutrition program for women, infants, and children, WIC is also at risk of significant disruptions due to the ongoing federal government shutdown. WIC benefits are not automatically guaranteed for November, and the impact will vary by state depending on its remaining funds and contingency plans. All right, and there's a lot of people who are just not aware. Okay, I probably got some of my family that's not aware of. I mean, they're somewhat aware, like they're hearing about it, but I don't think they're aware that, like, well, funds are not coming. Okay, and North Carolina is one of those states where funds are not coming, and then you have also WIC has been affected. Okay, federal funding status, emergency funds expiring in early October 2025. All right, early October. The White House issued emergency funds to keep the WIC program operational through the end of the month. However, those funds are set to expire on October the 31st. See, no immediate replacement funding. And Lord willing, because of this, that whole Halloween stuff, that season is dry. Okay, but you never know because Jake kind of hard headed. But anyways, no immediate replacement funding because Jake gotta have their fun, holidays, right? Without a budget resolution from Congress. No new federal funding has been secured to cover WIC benefits starting November 1st. So there's no talk of that either. Or at least nothing has been, found suitable or whatever. All right. So that's one, no SNAP. And then two, no WIC. All right. USDA's, which both of these heavily affect women, right? More than anyone else. They heavily affect women. Not saying they're the only ones, but women more than anyone. Because WIC is a definite direct, towards women. Okay, and their little ones. But then, the food SNAP, benefits, right, could be universal. But women are in both of those categories. So notice the women, all right, what it says, rise up, you careless women, that are at ease, just roughly paraphrasing. Because they've milked these programs, all right? They've milked these programs, all right? As I, spoke about the other day in Revelation 12. So I always like to pull that out. But we were brought into this land of great traffic, all right, for to be nourished for a season, all right. That season is about to be up, okay. USDA's role, well, it is up. It's not about to be because they already announced that there's no funds, but besides the few states that are going to take from their own pockets, but they're not going to get paid back, so that's going to run the state dry, or maybe they're borrowing. I don't know, okay. USDA's role, the USDA, which administers the WIC program, can use some flexibility, such as drawing on a contingency fund or unspent prior year funds. However, organizations like the National WIC Association are calling on the White House to release additional funds to prevent disruptions. All right, potential state level impacts. Let's try to get more nitty gritty. Okay, actually, we might get it right here. How states are handling the uncertainty. There's North Carolina, I just mentioned that, right? Some states have confirmed their WIC status into November, but the outlook is uncertain for many others. States with limited funds, states like North Carolina, have announced that they lack funding to maintain WIC benefits past early November without federal action. And guess what? The federal action ain't coming. Okay. States with stopgap plans. Some states are better positioned for the short term. We read some of this in talking about the SNAP program, right? California officials stated their program is expected to remain operational through November 30th. Same thing for them. See, New York, Utah, and Minnesota also expect to continue benefits into November. Some states can use their own funds to cover the cost with the hope of federal reimbursement later. See, the hope, that's crazy. The hope of federal reimbursement later, but the federal says they're not going to repay them back. There is no reimbursement coming. They just have a hope of being reimbursed later. That's crazy. Varying impact. The duration of benefits will depend on each state's available carryover funds. This means families in different states could face different timelines for when their benefits might be disrupted. Okay. What recipients should do. Oh, that's. I want to get to that. Yep. See, it has a question for me. See, it's very helpful. See, because I want to see which ones. All right, states at high risk of WIC disruptions. The following states have been publicly identified as having limited WIC funding for November or have confirmed disruptions. North Carolina, the Department of Health and Human Services announced on October 27th that it does not have the funding to maintain WIC benefits past early November. Washington, all right, I think it's probably state. I'm not sure. I doubt it was Washington, D.C. Yeah, it's probably Washington State, over there to the west of the country at the border of Canada. State officials have previously stated they could only sustain the program for a week or two before running out of money, with no state funds available to backfill. You see, everything's the same. Mississippi, all right, the Cricket letter. While continuing benefits for existing participants, the state has already had to stop enrolling new applicants amid the shutdown. Yeah, no more people asking for it because we're not going to be able to give to the people who are already on the program. So there's no use for new applicants. All right, Kansas. The Sedgwick County WIC program, which serves thousands of families, expected to run out of funding for staff in mid-October. So they're probably already dry. Nevada. And this we're talking about WIC, all right. The Intertribal Council of Nevada, WIC announced it would cut off benefits on October 9th. Now, that was way early, while it later received temporary funding to last until the end of the month. Its status for November is uncertain, so they don't know what it's a toss-up for them right now. Okay. Factors contributing to a state's risk. A state's risk level is determined by three main factors: contingency funding, willingness to backfill, WIC participation rate. Okay. Okay. So we don't have to, drag this out. Like I said, this is what had me going earlier because, you can ask it so because it gives you, some pretty decent, answers. It's straightforward. Okay. Yeah, but I want to end maybe just hit the scripture real quick. Okay. Go over here to Second Esdras. Just key right now as everything that's happening and the time period that we're living in. Okay. Brother Esdras, by way of the angel, by way of the Lord, all right, really put us on point. Okay. Let's start right here. Woe unto the world and them that dwell therein, woe is destruction. For the sword and the destruction draweth nigh, and one people shall stand up and fight against another, and swords in their hands. What are these women saying? All right. Some men too, but I've seen a lot of videos with these women. Okay, or a few videos anyways with these women. Okay, talking about they're just gonna walk out with carts of food, or they gonna steal, or they gonna my cousin gonna punch you out. All this kind of craziness. All right. It's easy to talk tough. When you're not outside the store with a cart full of food, and the police are looking for you because they got your car color and tags or whatever, or maybe they're in the parking lot waiting for you. Whatever the case may be, or however things play out. But we know for a fact that they're saying that there are no funds coming. All right, for SNAP program as well as WIC, both running dry. Okay, which there's only certain things you can get with WIC, but I mean, I really don't know the extent of all the things you can get with WIC. Probably should look that up. But we know EBT is, just a general thing, which they've been trying to scale back on what people can buy from. That was one of the things that I researched earlier, or at least it came up. All right, what people can buy, which that hasn't. It's not like it's new, but that's been talked about. They're trying to cut out buying all these junk food and stuff like that. What Jake will buy, like I mentioned before, delivering. I don't often deliver, to like ghetto spots, but it happens because it's just people, different people order. But a lot of times I see when they do, Jake will have, they might have a thing of strawberries and everything else, which is junk food, okay? All kinds of junk food and then a couple of, food items versus, which I'm not putting nobody on no pedal, definitely not, because of Edomites, but, a lot of times deliver to these Edomites and they'll have all kinds of fruits, vegetables, and things of that nature. They have some junk too, but most of their food is actual, edible food and on some level healthy, man. So just cutting out junk food is one thing, but then you just have the N-Dub who before bought uh 6 boxes of cereals and some cakes. Is just now going to just buy 20 boxes of cereal. Okay, she's not going to buy real food, man, because her mind is not wired to do that. Okay, but anyways, back to the point of topic at hand. These people are saying how they're going to rob, steal, do this, do that, and people talking about going house to house. Okay, so this could be the start of stage 2 of Jacob's Trouble, right? You know how you got video games and got levels. You got to beat the first level, then you go to the next level. Well, the first level, was ice rolling on the northern kingdom. Then ice started rolling on the southern kingdom. Now, this is what possibly level 3, where people are going to go crazy over food that they think they deserve. Women, and talking about the taxpayers are supposed to pay this and that for my children, thinking that they deserve, and not knowing that these programs, well, something actually I gotta take that back. They know that these programs were only to help them, to assist, and it is why it's called assist. Okay, to assist them, not for them just to forever be on it and just milk it. Okay, so now that well has run dry, and so these people are saying that they're going to go crazy because they are trying to manipulate and overuse the system, that because they trust in Esau, and the prophets are out here. They're not trusting the Lord. Okay, they're trusting Esau. So what's going to happen? They're going to stand up and fight against one another and swords in their hands. And one of those main things is going to be over groceries. Okay, for lack of bread. I think there's a scripture that says that. Actually, yep, it's down here below. It's in the same chapter. Yep, a couple scriptures down. For there shall be sedition among men, and invading one another, they shall not regard their kings nor princes. And then what they're saying, I dare you to do this. I'm gonna go and do that. Okay, we're gonna do this. We're gonna go house to house. All this stuff that they're saying. Okay, and some of those Jake probably gonna act it out, and they're not just Jake too. Let me make that clear. You see Jake, but I don't think Esau won't do it too. Okay, he's a worse criminal because it's embedded in him. It's just natural in him. Okay, to just be a deviant, but Jake is no different. They shall not regard their kings nor princes, and the course of their actions shall stand in their power. Right? Because of what? People are complaining. I forgot about the opening video about the job force. All right, people are complaining about jobs, money, food. People are complaining about political issues, and so on and so forth. People got all kinds of complaints. But there's a controlled demolition happening to the current economy of Babylon, right? Because they're working their way up to this new system, and they're working fast, man. A man shall desire to go into a city and shall not be able. Yeah, because they may issue curfews and lockdowns and declare martial law, bring out troops, National Guard, or whatever the case may be, depending on the severity of the situation, how things play out. For because of their pride, the city shall be troubled, the houses shall be destroyed, and men shall be afraid. See, they say they want to do what? Go house to house, right? And a man shall have no pity upon his neighbor. Yep, Matthew 24. It says the love of many shall wax cold. Okay, when you're going to wax cold, the word is cycle. See, they're not going to care. A man shall have, it's going to be survival mode. A man shall have no pity upon his neighbor, but shall destroy their houses with the sword. See, what's the modern day sword? The gun. Okay, and spoil their goods. See, spoil their goods. Spoil means to take. It was taken. It was robbed. Their goods, mainly what? The food, man. You see, so that's what everybody's complaining about right now, from Snap to Wick. Okay, and spoil their goods because of the lack of bread. All right, lacham, bread. Okay, sustenance. They ain't gonna be able to eat. Okay, but this is what we talk about all the time. Every single time, well, not every single time, but a lot of times we go into talking about this all the time. There's two major weapons that are used in war. Not saying the only, but two major. Money, okay, and sustenance. You need food. How do you get food? You gotta buy it. Okay? Well, so you need money to buy the food. But if money's going digital, all right, so Esau's laying out breadcrumbs to lead people into falling into his snare, into his trap, which is the whole digital system, and begging him for a way out, which will be, the CHIP. Okay, and that CHIP may lead to the UBI and other stuff like that. Social credit scoring system, all those things just tie in. But the main thing is the CHIP itself, leading people to that ultimate device. See, destroy their houses with a sword and spoil their goods because of the lack of bread and for great tribulation. Okay, and for these people, they act like that's the greatest tribulation. But Jacob Schroeder hasn't really opened up yet. Okay, but this is what people are complaining about right now. This is where we are right now. Okay, so I'll probably leave it at that. I really want to, pull up some more things, but, I think that's good enough, just to hit the point. So, yeah. So, Lord, will you edify? Shalom.